Welcome to the Citizen Central podcast, where we jump into the fray and talk about some of the bigger topics in Star Citizen. I have been wanting to do a show on the character creator since they showed it off at CitizenCon, but I was also thinking maybe we wait until they talk a little bit more about it. And now that they've finally given us good detail, we've also gotten a QA on Star Citizen Live. Basically, everything's out in the open. I figure let's get together, have a good conversation, talk about what makes a good character customizer, what we want to see more of in this one, and how we're feeling about what they've shown us so far. So thank you everybody for coming to the show if you are here, and thank you to the guests who we're about to get to. We have a bit of an empty seat right now, but I think that'll get filled sometime midpoint. So let's start at the top left then, for all of you who are here with us on video, and if you're in audio, well, the nebulous voice, TheAstroPub. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you for coming. How are you doing? No, I'm not hearing you.
Professional streamer. Yeah.
There we go.
Professional streamer. Thank you for having me. I'm currently suffering from stupid decision, but I am doing okay.
It's early.
Stay up too late doing things, even though I was supposed to sleep. So
it's early for these people. We're back in Turkey. We're hosting the podcast from over here. So when the time zones line up, they tend to line up with the Americans being up a little earlier. We get them when they're still fresh and getting the eye boogers out and stuff. But we appreciate it. Thank you guys for showing up. CaptainSeriousSFun, welcome.
Oh, it's an absolute blessing to be here. I began on Soul Citizen Soul Team and met you both, Paul. I met everybody, Paul, Buster, and Space Tomato out at CitizenCon. And I said that my streaming bingo was to end up on the captain's table and on anything that Space Tomato does. So I can die tonight happy. And so I appreciate you fulfilling my live stream.
Absolutely, man. Wanted to definitely get you in here, and a lot of great things said about you, and people want to see what you have to say. So glad to get you on a Citizen Central episode to talk a little bit about, I hope, something that you're very excited about in the game. But we'll get to that.
Indeed.
Buster, how are you doing? Welcome in.
I'll be honest, I was listening to a bunch of Sir Mix-a-Lot on the way here, and I'm ornery.
That's a way to start the day.
Yeah. I have ideas when it comes to Sir Mix-a-Lot.
And
ideas.
I guess the first thing I need to ask then, given the context of the show, is: are you going to be creating a Sir Mix-a-Lot in Star Citizen?
That's why not? Why not?
Gotta go for it.
Make all the great ones.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, as you know, we have multiple podcasts. Usually the launch sequences are weekly, more one-on-one kind of talk, but this is something that we like to do as a roundtable discussion with a bunch of good folks from the community, as always supported by our supporters who are here live with us in the Discord, but we're also live streaming this one. Sometimes the live stream works out in this case, and we like to let people chime in and chat. So if you do like this podcast and you do want to maybe jump in and leave your own comments, make sure to keep an eye out for the next time we go live on this. It's every month. Anyways, why don't we get started with this talk? It's a fun one. Character customizer is like a sleeper for a lot of people, right? It's like really important, something people are really excited about. But if you asked what makes a good video game, most people are going to be like, "Oh man, gotta be able to customize my character well." But it comes up. So before we jump into Star Citizens, I want to ask you where you guys come from in terms of gaming, and what your history is with, I guess, customizing characters. TheAstroPub, we can start with you.
Sure. I mean, there's two real big influences for me, which is Bethesda games, like early Bethesda games, and the other one is probably. Oh, I'm trying to think of the other ones. In terms of like character customization and creation, I would say something like Mass Effect, but I don't think like BioWare doesn't really have extensive tools usually off the top. So I would say like the most in-depth character creator when I was sort of like my formative gaming experience with something like Morrowind or Oblivion back in
Jeez.
the early 2000s. So
Classics. Okay.
mhm.
All right. What about you, Captain?
Oh, I mean, I'm the OG here. You can see from my beard that
Paul's
my
got
game.
work
I
to
go
do.
all the way back to I go all the way back to the Telstar Ranger and Pong in 1976. But if we're talking character customizers, um, I can tell you that I have. It's been an ongoing journey to more and more of an ability to be able to look like this in game. And so Paul, I think, is right in calling out Bethesda. We saw some of that there recently, and recently I'm talking like 2014,
Hmm.
2015. I was pleased with Elite Dangerous's character customizer. Um, I felt like I could approach myself or any character I might imagine um, with some limits on the uglyization, right? Or the super distortion
Mhm.
that people like to also do. And so I was really pleased with that. Um, when I think about the industry and where it is now and what Star Citizen's up against, I think about things like MetaHuman, uh, which I think is the standard right now um, out of the Unreal Engine. But
Is
yeah, I
that
think Elite Dangerous is a great example for me.
MetaHuman is like the Unreal Engine default thing? Is that actually used in the Unreal games, or is that kind of like their background tech that people can pull resources from?
I think it's becoming both, right? So it is the background tech, as I understand it, but it's also a framework that it can be implemented, a suite of tools that can be implemented in game. And because Unreal 5 is still relatively new, we're seeing that as
Yeah.
um, an emergent
It,
idea. But we'll see more and more of that.
Okay.
it's apparently not out yet. I just looked it up because I hadn't heard that term before because I don't follow the Unreal 5's development a lot because I always hear people like gloating about it, being like oh yes, Unreal 5 is, and I'm just like I'm so tired of hearing that. So I haven't really seen that. But
It's
now looking at
literally
it, like, that's really
the
cool.
best thing we've ever discovered since the automobile. How are you not studying it every day? Star Citizen should be made with it. Come on.
It's it's cool, but like yeah, yeah, apparently it's still in early access, so it's not quite
Mhm.
out released yet to the public. So, but yeah, it looks powerful.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely.
If you
Looks
have,
like good stuff.
if you already have an Epic Games login, it's one of the easiest ways to gain access to the demo and play with it a bit. And it's very impressive. Very impressive.
Maybe I'll
MetaHuman
check that
creator.
out sometime. Buster,
Mhm.
what kind of games are you coming from that focus on characters?
Well, I remember like I would say kind of in the same veins as Paul, like Bethesda games. Even though Mass Effect doesn't have a huge character customizer, it was at the time like you spent a while figuring out what Shepard looked like.
Yeah.
At least I did, and just stuff like that. I can't really think. I mean, there's like other stuff, right? That's more recent too. That had like I think like Baldur's Gate 3 has a pretty good one, but I always felt that one's a little limited. I think the Cyberpunk one's fantastic. Uh, I any game that has a pretty cool character customizer is usually a game I'm gonna like. Because like bespoke characters, as we were talking about earlier before the podcast, like bespoke characters are sometimes like it depends on the story and the character, but yeah, but overall I and I don't play a lot of MMOs. I know there's a lot of MMOs probably where you could do a little bit of customization.
Yeah.
I really don't play a lot. Like Star Citizen's the only one. It's my one and only at all. Because
Same.
everything else I would play in a group is like kind of small group kind of games like Raft, Stardew Valley. Oh, there's one. Stardew Valley. Great character customizer. Just got a new update too. I know Paul's wife Cam is very excited about that.
Oh yeah,
And
she's been playing it nonstop. I have lost her to the valley of the dews.
I'm about to get lost in it today. Yeah.
I got hooked on Stardew Valley for a bit last year. I don't actually remember customizing my character though.
Oh, we should all do like a group Stardew Valley.
Yeah, because you can do online, I think. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, that's
I
cool.
don't know if it's a mod, but I know you can do multiples. So
it's not a mod. It's not a mod. That's part of the.
It's just part of the game.
Now.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Nice.
I did not
It's
know
been
that.
That is
years.
another component, right? Is the games that are highly moddable. Sometimes we forget what the base options are versus when you got all the mods plugged in.
Yeah.
And that's a strength of games that are moddable, is that they allow the community to extend those things. I mean, Black Desert, the Bethesda games, all of them have better character customizers, race menu and Skyrim, et cetera, that. So
that's a great point. Black Desert is one that I hear often as the sort of pinnacle of character customization, and I do wonder, what is it that sets it so far apart? What is it that makes a good character customizer in that game?
Oh gosh, you don't want to hear the answer.
I do want to.
Go ahead,
I do want to say. Oh, sorry. I do want to say before we get away from it too. Is we're really talking about character customization. I come from D&D.
Yeah.
And role-playing games too, and that may not be as like obviously like a video game and all that where you can like put it together the same way. Like nowadays you can. There's probably some stuff out there where you could do it, but certainly like character customizer down to the stats back in the day. And I used to draw my own little characters and stuff, so I've always loved a good character customizer.
That's the ultimate, and and I guess that's part of why Baldur's Gate would be expected to have a good customizer, but also I expected Cyberpunk to have a very good one because it came from like the same sort of background. Now I don't know where that lines up because again, I don't play that many games, especially with character customization, so that's why I brought you guys in to ask more about what makes a good one, but I feel like Cyberpunk's should have been kind of the same in that energy.
Yeah.
I feel like it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
the fashion game is where it's at in Cyberpunk. Like all those little outfits you can find. Like I used to wear this little there's a couple versions of it in different colors, and it's just like a what do you call it? Like a leotard kind of, but it's like a jacket at the same time. I was like just the coolest person on a motorcycle in Cyberpunk City.
It's a very cyberpunk leotard jackets.
Cyberpunk's a great example of the distinction between the initial character customization that you can do and ongoing customization that you can do, right?
And that's a huge point to point out, is that character customization at the customization screen is only the beginning of a customization journey. And I don't know, CaptainSeriousFun, do you play a lot of MMOs?
I don't.
Okay.
But I have enjoyed, to Buster's point, the customization journey in Cyberpunk. You're like, all right, I can do some things up front, and especially Cyberpunk now, right? The ostensibly fetished version. Mm-hmm. I am never not continuing to tweak my customization, my wardrobes, the stuff that I find.
Yeah.
You were going to make a point about MMOs, Paul. Sorry.
Oh, no. What I was saying is I think I'm probably the person who has the most experience with MMOs. I don't play extensively, but I played a bunch of them. And to answer your question, Tomato, about what makes Black Desert so important. So Black Desert has a couple of things. And one of the things that has it going for it is that it has a anime aesthetic, which is very, very strong. So it does the sort of photorealism anime vibe. It's similar to like Final Fantasy and some of those other sort of games where they're really going for a style, but they take that style and they apply like modern day, it would be almost like an AI filter, like a Chat GPT or like a DALL-E sort of filter on top of it. That's the kind of style that it has. And the real reason why everyone talks about it is because it does have a lot of customization options, but you can't really make an ugly character in Black Desert Online. Everyone is beautiful. It's a universe where everyone is gorgeous and like flawless. So this is the same reason why everyone likes to like mod Bethesda games where everyone looks like they fell out of an anime or something like that, because it's like perfect skin, no models,
No
like
sunspots.
yeah, nothing. Like it's just wonderful. Like almost it's definitely Uncanny Valley, but it's Uncanny Valley in the fantasy sense.
Hmm.
And since it's a fantasy game, it kind of works with it. Uh,
It's like the
but
Space Tomato universe. Everyone's beautiful when you come here. Everyone's
yeah,
well lit, right?
Yes. There's no sunbeams shining down on your face in any weird
face.
positions.
um,
That's
but I was
Only
gonna
to
also
glorify us. Yeah.
I was going to follow on to that. I think the big thing about MMOs that people need to remember is that the end game of all MMOs is fashion. Fashion is always the thing that everyone wants to do because fashion is so important for individualization. So, like, making something look like me may be important, or something that I want to look like may be important, but it's not the end of the road. The end of the road is something that looks like cool and the character I want to play, and then within MMOs is also have a distinct look that makes you stand out and make people go, "Oh yeah, that's that person," that kind of thing.
right.
Um,
Mhm.
and the last one because I forgot one that I think is a very important one that everyone uses, even though I think it's fairly simple, but a lot of people will kind of use that as a default when you're looking at like character creation, is The Sims, because that's basically what The Sims is. It's just a character
Yes.
creator
The Sims.
with life mod attached. So
Oh,
Yeah,
and if you
that's
ask my daughter, how she evaluates character customizers, it really is on the basis of time. Do I spend as much time in this other character customizer as I have in The Sims?
is more time. More time is better.
More time is better,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
More tweaks are better.
I like that. I like that angle that you might have your initial character customizer that makes certain things a thing, but you're still customizing your character technically after the fact. Is that, you also mentioned it, the end game is fashion, right? Does that also have to do with changing the actual look of your character throughout the game? So I know in Star Citizen Live, they talked about like, oh, how will we be able to maybe edit our players? And you could talk about, oh, well, you go to the hospital and you do something, or the Bio, Bioticorp, whatever their name was for the people who have.
Bioticorp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of different ways to do that in universe. You guys feel that's very important as well?
Yeah.
I feel like being able to come back and maybe add a scar, being able to come back and evolve my hair, change my look a bit. I think those will be touch points along the way. For me, fashion, a subset of fashion. I think that's right. That fashion is broadly the engagement, but a subset of it is also sort of like veteran components.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to, if you're able to do something like, oh, this was the campaign of 2955,
Yeah.
and it's a
Yeah.
patch, or it's a particular jacket, or it's something. So a subset of it is a component of the fashion options that represent having been there and done that in the space and place and time of the
Yeah.
MMO that you can't get unless you were there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
So
unique
that type of
hairstyles.
thing.
Hairstyles unique to specific places that you visited that not everybody's gone to yet, or
Yeah.
you've been in for
Right.
a while and then you return to another
Hmm.
system. Like
Or
they
like
talked about yesterday.
tattoos that you
Like a
can
Banu
get because you.
barbershop.
Yeah.
They don't
Right.
even have hair and they got
Um,
The
barbershops.
I was
Xi'an
gonna.
cosmetologist, yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna kind of to kind of jump on what Buster was saying earlier about like D and D, because I also come from a D&D background. From when I was much younger. It's like second edition sort of thing. And the one thing that's important to most people who play pen and paper games, and I think will kind of transfers over to MMOs, is role play, in the sense of like being able to modify the character in the way that you think would fit with what they happen. So if you had some particularly epic moment where you held off the in Star Citizen, for instance, something like you held off a wave of Vandur from an area, and even though it was just like a mission that everyone can do, but you found yourself the last stand situation, um, you know, maybe you as a result of that mission you lost your arm, so when you regen you don't have an arm anymore. You might like want to have something that kind of represents that moment in your life beyond just, oh, I have an arm. But
Yeah.
that's another kind of component as well. Things like cybernetics and the changing of your body based off of the actions that have happened even itself is part of that kind of character creation process, I'd say, or like customization process.
So it's less about just the initial character customizer and more about the overall
development.
the flow of your character
physically and with soft goods like fashion.
So if we go back
that
to
initial character customizer's got to be right. Right?
Sure, yeah, which is why we're here to talk about that. But before we do go back to that, I want to go back to what you guys you all said about specifically the games that you felt did the best with character customizers, because we were talking about the actual customization process. But then there's also to take into account, like you're saying, things that can happen throughout playing the game that change your character as well. Are there any specific examples you can point to, or things that have like really surprised you in that sense with other games?
Well, okay, like here's a good example in Mass Effect 2, right? There is a point like where spoiler alert if you haven't played Mass Effect 2 or 1. Really it's just the beginning of the game stuff, but at the beginning of the game, you find out like Shepard died in some skirmish, and this group of people called Cerberus rebuilt Shepard from what genetic material was left of Shepard, right? And there's like this option in the game, like you basically first wake up in that game with like these weird like scars like in your face that kind of almost look like lava under the surface, like they're very orange.
Yeah.
And they're, to me, they almost look like acne scars, but they're just like little scars pockmarked on your face. And like one of the choices you can make is basically based on whether you're doing renegade stuff or Paragon, right? The scars can get better or worse. So if you're making Paragon choices, your scars get better and they heal up. If you make renegade choices, your scars continue to get worse. That also in the game you can get an upgrade to the ship to just deal with it right away. Of course, if you're playing Paragon, what's the point?
Yeah.
Because you're like, why would I pay like 50,000 palladium or whatever it is for that stuff? So for that upgrade. So and then also same thing in Baldur's Gate, and not trying to spoil something, but there's, if you continue to go down a certain kind of somewhat not really evil but like a specific path of power in Baldur's Gate 3, you will also develop like not scars but like this weird thing on like the weird look on your face. And those of you who don't, I won't spoil the end of Baldur's Gate, but it could get to the point where your body completely changes.
I see.
Into another creature's body. So
and that's good real life advice for you kids. Make good choices and your skin will look better. So,
yeah.
ultimate skincare routine.
Be good, and
you-
you will have a glow.
I was going to say for you, those of you who are younger, and do not currently, especially males who do not currently use skincare, please use skincare.
Sunscreen.
Your face will feel better. Sunscreen and moisturizer are the two most important things you can do for your face and for your skin from like forever, just because your face won't hurt when you're in your 30s, 40s and beyond, and your skin will feel better.
Why do you think like millennials look so good? Because we put sunscreen on. Our parents made us wear sunscreen.
It is important. I got very lucky in that I just have naturally pretty dry skin, so I was just always moisturizing as a kid, and it helped me. I aged a little bit. Not that I'm super old.
Look at him now.
Yeah.
Yes, what you don't know is that Space Tomato is actually 85 years old. So
yeah, I'm actually worried about retiring before this game comes out, unfortunately, because I'm in my 70s. It's too bad. Nice glow though. So I agree with the Mass Effect comparison. That was actually a really nice touch. I think the first time I ever experienced something like that was in Knights of the Old Republic, and I believe that's the first game where I actually used a character customizer, and it stuck with me. It wasn't super in depth, it wasn't super crazy, but specifically that whole idea of like, oh, your character's changing over time, you better watch out. And I wonder, can they do something like that in Star Citizen, or is it better to put that in the hands of the player with like cybernetics and tattoos and different things that you can do just to kind of show where you've been as opposed to natural changes?
The answer is yes.
Yeah,
Right?
for both.
But
Yeah.
we
Yes.
want it all. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, who
yeah.
are we? We want it all.
And it's speaking from the lore perspective of things like that. I think it's important that any of those sorts of things where, like, say you work with a Tavaran gang in the verse that, or a Tavaran group in the verse, it's kind of like a splinter group, and they try to really practice the Rejora, and they bring you on board as help, and they start to trust you, and they give you access to like a specific tattoo that you can get, which represents your connection to the Rejora or to that group. That will give you more insight into that species' culture and their backgrounds, and it's a way of showing off something to like the general non the general player population, like, oh, this person has worked with this crew before, because there's no way you can get it without it.
Mhm.
And it grounds you in the universe, which is, I think, probably one, in my perspective, the most important aspect of any character customizer and creation, is that it makes you feel like you are there. It adds to that immersion, but also allows you to kind of fit in the universe. So like the way you look, and like in Skyrim, for instance, the way you the character, the race you play will give you different dialogue options based off of the people around you. So like, if you're like a elf, any of the kind of the elf character types in Skyrim, the Nords will like chide at you and be like, like, go to hell and stuff like that. Whereas if you're I think it's like an Argonian or a Khajiit, they'll like kind of be super like, stay away,
Mhm.
like you see, you're a thief, that kind of things, like
Shouldn't have come here.
the stereotype stuff that kind of pops up for those sorts of things. That's just kind of an example, and I think that's something that you can see in Star Citizen,
Yeah.
as well, for based off of your
the-
appearance and based off of what you're wearing and stuff like that. So
And the components of that go back to the Ultima series in terms of visual games, and even further back to like the Zorks, where what you've done and how the choices you've made get reactions from the communities you engage in. And, one of the things that, for better or for worse, for CIG, that they've cultivated in us is an expectation of an elevated refinement of all of our experiences, right? So we have these broad sets of experiences in, say, the character customizer, and we're looking for CIG to take it to the next level, right, with Star Citizen. And so my hope is that, to Paul's point, it's not only what I choose character customization wise, but that CIG thinks about what that means where I have reputation and what NPCs might say to me there, versus people who were negatively impacted in other parts of the galaxy by what I did, and what happens and what they say to me when I go there, right?
Right.
Like, oh, this guy was part of the such and such campaign, and that starved us for 3 years, right? They hate us over there, and they love us over here. I'm hoping, and we can still fill portions of our CIG journey with hopium, but I'm hoping that type of thing, that type of customization, both of my body and of my choices, is reflected in the communities that we're in and that we traverse. So
Yeah, there's an interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just remember, this is the game of consequences.
right.
Which we like.
Choices have consequences.
I'm going to use the less not lewd, crass version of, as someone said in one of my chat earlier, that Star Citizen and CIG, or CIG loves to play, loves to make Star Citizen the mess around and find out game. Like that's what they want it to be. They want it to be to be like, oh, Consequence is the video game.
I find out so much. So much. This game is all about cover your ass, because
yeah,
it's they're not going to tell you you need to do something, and you can find yourself out in space without like oxygen or something, and it's just, oh, you should have thought about that. It is going to be interesting.
Last night we were doing overdrive, and you saw in the chat, a guy was screaming in the chat going, 20 hours in prison. I'm like, oh, you thought you would come in and do the things you do in other MMOs, and you messed around and found out.
It's going to
20 hours in prison for you.
Because reputation is something that we know a lot about. But now that we're talking about character customization, and y'all are talking about how it progresses as you play, and with the Mass Effect as the example, we see that it's more like there are many different ways Star Citizen can help our characters be customized without just this customizer. You also mentioned that you want to see them go above and beyond, though. What do you think would take this experience to the next level?
I'll start there. One, I already think the V1 of the character customizer looks like pretty on par with other things in the industry at a high level. As far as above and beyond, I mean, obviously, like they talked about it yesterday in IC, like there will be more hair, there will be more options for things like that. I would like to see, and they even talked about like they're gonna like kind of do some work on the eyes and figure it out if like they can make them, So it sounds like they have a lot of ideas of where they want to go with it. And then they also talked about how some of the they talked about how this tech obviously is for helping them also build NPC characters, and the hair tech specifically can really play into fauna. Right, with fauna, with fur, things like that. So like overall, like I like what they're saying, like that it's because people do that thing where they're like, why are we putting so much time on a character creator when there are ships that are finished, there are systems that are built, like sorry.
That's how
that's been happening, and of course, like just because it's not important to you as a player doesn't mean it's not important to other people. And the thing is there will be people in this game that maybe didn't think they care about a character creator, right? But then they will use it. They will continue to play. It will continue to develop, like we're talking about. Like you can get a tattoo because you joined this gang. You can get that hairstyle because you went to that system, and that's like a hairstyle they did, right? You could do those kinds of things, hopefully, in the future. And like I think there's some people that won't care about that stuff that actually might like have a moment to get into it. So that's, to me, the beyond more than anything is converting the unconverted. And also just like having those aspects where really everything we've already been talking about, like all these extra things, but overall, like definitely in the future I want to see improvements to makeup. I think the makeup looks great at this first pass, but I'm kind of curious as to like, will we have like multiple styles of makeup, or is this just kind of like color blocks that you can edit for now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to see a bit more art. Like I would really like to see them kind of have some artistic choices of their own put in. But yeah, overall, I would like to see more body customization as well. They kind of talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, and we will definitely talk about that here, because I think that's a big one, and one that a lot of people feel is missing. It's funny though, listening to the reactions that you're seeing, because the character customizer has really embodied the idea that so many people want so many different things and will only think that we should do what they want. I see people saying, oh, you got a character customizer 10 years in. Why'd you take so long? You see other people saying, why are you working on the character customizer right now? The game's not close to being ready. Like, it's like, there's just so many opinions on this.
I will say this here, and I will say this now. The reason a character customizer, and a good one, is important overall to the development of this game, out beyond like the mechanical obvious points of it, right? Like you can make a character, Beyond all that, the reason it's important, and look at me when I say this, chat, and I'm going to say this to all of you. The reason it's important is because it fosters the development of a wider and more diverse player base.
That's important.
Yeah.
It's so important. And the thing is I know that some people would sit there and say, well, I don't care. They keep continuing with I don't care. I don't see why people make such a big deal about it. how would you feel if like the default character in like every other game that you're interested in playing is somebody that doesn't look at all like you all the time?
Yeah.
All the time.
And if you don't even have an
Right?
option to change that.
And it's fine, you know, like I said earlier, bespoke, like when you're playing something like Red
Alan
Dead,
Wake or
that's
something like
about that
you know.
character.
Or the
That's-
Witcher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's about that character. But how many of those games are about a specific looking person?
And I can tell you that in my own personal experience, you know, as a black man, I that's exactly right, right?
Yeah.
And so we
It's
all have a
always the
nickel in that
default.
quarter,
You're never the default. Yeah.
right? And we always have and we all have a nickel in that quarter, right? So I
Yeah.
think about how often I can make my character look like myself. I'm not immediately thinking about how my character might be differently abled, right? Or I'm not thinking about the patriarchy in this environment, or I'm not thinking about some of these other things, right? And so it's important that a developer in 2024 is thinking about all the different ways in which representation can happen.
Yeah.
To your point, Buster, because a diverse player base is a more resilient player base, and that's just math and finances.
Yeah,
and
it's real
sustainability
simple
of the
math.
game.
If
too.
everybody
Right.
looked, thought, and did everything the same way, would we have survived as a species? Would we be interesting as a species? Would we have a culture beyond like what all of the 15 million Bobs in the world think? Right? You know, that's always like variety is the spice of life, and the greater and wider this community is in what kinds of people we have in it, the better the community is going to be overall, because we'll have better checks and balances in the community between each other where we need them.
Yeah.
And we will also be a better gaming community. And I don't mean to like stand on the soapbox about this, but I really believe in this, because most people
right.
that are like not the default character here in life, like people like myself and all y'all, like the thing is those are the people that care the most about character creators. Those are the people that play, like, take the most time in a character creator, and it's the people who's the most important to. It may not be important to everybody, and you know, but it absolutely will
Well,
foster a wider player base.
I think you made a good point too about how a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people tend to grow a connection to the people that they're playing the game with, that are in the game. A lot of people will pick their favorite character in a game based on the culture they come from, or the background they have, or maybe they look like their freaking parents. I don't know.
Or even just make a character that looks nothing like them, like, you know, just for fun, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, they picked on Danny DeVito yesterday, but maybe I want to be Danny DeVito, right?
You know,
I
think
wanna
deep
make
down
Sergeant
we're all
Johnson.
Danny DeVito.
I have always wanted to make a character that looked like Sergeant Johnson, because he's one of my favorite video game characters of all time, and I feel like I'm getting there. That's exciting, because that's my favorite character. It doesn't even matter if it looks like me or not.
So what you're saying is that you need cigars, so you can chomp cigars while you're playing.
Cigars and gigantic tanks.
That's a really good point that we kind of were talking about, like, what do you want to see in the future? That accessories that like of that nature is a really good one, like stogies, like little baubles that, like, these weird pieces of jewelry or whatever. That's something I will say. Jewelry.
Yeah.
Or like fidgets, you know, like things you'd have on like on your stuff that you might fidget with and stuff. I was gonna kind of add to this is that, you know, coming from the queer community, one of the things that's very common in the queer community about things, this is a common trope, is that a lot of people in D&D, like, you know, people who are trans, who like do play D&D, will often, before they realize they're trans, they'll realize that they're playing the gender that they've always wanted to be.
Yeah.
In those games.
That's super common in the trans
very
community.
absolutely
amazingly
common.
And the other thing is that and I know you, if you're watching this is for people who have long-term relationships. A lot of people play their significant others. They'll create their significant others in game because they just want to stare at their they want to stare at their significant others the entire day, because that's what they think is
maybe it doesn't have to be you. It could just be someone you like.
Somebody
and
thinks cool.
I play as
and
my wife all the time.
and I think that's the key aspect of something like an MMO. If you're gonna dump hours and hours into a game like Star Citizen, a character creator is essential only because
It extends that experience.
yeah.
It makes it more meaningful in some way.
And
to
then
some
and
to
it's a
some
little
people.
inclusive stuff because like
Mhm.
one of the things that I always have a problem with typically in video games is like the default male character is like me. It's like giant shoulders, 6 foot tall, built like a freight train. It's like, oh great, but like
Where's
there
the
are other
short
body
kings?
there are where are the short kings or where are my
Where's my
life
Wolverine short
trees,
kings?
you know, or whatever. And
See-
I'm glad that CIG is kind of moving that way, where they just have just 2 body types, and then you can just attach anything you want to either of those body types, because that
Yeah.
kind of makes it so that you can create that like sort of ambiguous, sort of appearance that you wouldn't be able to create in another game. So I
Yeah.
like that kind of
If
aspect.
I can't make my own customized spaceships in the game, then you better let me make my own customized person. Because
That's a
like
completely
you
different
want
thing.
Good point.
I will die on that hill of we need to have
Yeah.
more customization on our spaceships and
That
our
too,
armor
yeah,
too.
yeah.
But you know,
yeah.
that's
Booty
part of the
sliders.
character creator. So
Booty sliders.
I think
For me,
one of the more
for me to go ahead. Sorry.
no, you go.
I was just gonna say for me, really quick, the next steps here, what I would like to see in the future, is an integration of customization, reputation onto all of the systems that they're building out, working in an integral fashion to produce unique experiences that I can have that would be really hard for somebody else to have the exact same way, right? So, you know, I hope then they're not afraid to, you know, make the Kurthok really xenophobic or something, right? So that, you know, it's hard to get to those systems, and when you get there, you're not treated well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to have that evolve, right? And things like that, right?
Because this conversation
So-
eventually leads to maybe you can play different alien races, in which case, you know, that customization is also important. An alien race you might not be able to go to certain places in the human system because they don't like aliens. You might not be able
what
to.
kind of Tavaran are you? Are you a assimilated Tavaran, or are you a Tavaran that's still trying to hold on to your culture, or you know, that
Stand up to the man. Disgusting senator. Gross. There's also going back to like the whole your character can change over time too is we've kind of been touching on it a little bit here and there, but there are a lot of things we already know about that will change your character and the way that people react to you. The hygiene in the game, like Paul said, we will have cybernetics. We've already seen what they look like, and they've told us that, you know, certain injuries might make you get one. Actually, those are really the only two I had. But the hygiene, I think, is also a big one. Taking care of your armor and your clothes and with wear and tear. These types of things are things that they've said will affect the way that you are reacted to in the game.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a thing with... I feel like they wouldn't do that for the character default character customizer, but...
I think so. At one point, they discussed with the DNA head system that each character default has an origin location. So it may be a situation where CIG, and this is a little bit of like, you know, theory crafting here, but this is something that Sean Tracy said at one point, was that they wanted to have, depending on your character looked like, they would have an origin that sort of combination of looks might be coming from. So like you create a character and then the game will spit out, oh, you're from Magnus, or you're from Daymar, or you're from Terra, or you know, you're from Sol, you know, and then there may be I
Filthy
can't
Belter.
imagine I can't imagine CIG being super requiring you to like you pick your character and they're just like, congratulations, you're Magnus. I don't think they're not going to rust this where you just kind of are just stuck with whatever character you rolled. But I do think that will kind of play into it, so they can maybe do more environmental storytelling with that, where like if you look like you're a person, like you came from somewhere like Magnus,
it affects how people talk to you. Yeah.
It affects how people talk to you. So I could see stuff like that. And of course, also, I think that the content, like we're going to see the customizer affect the gameplay? Because I think it's a key component of the gameplay because of reputation.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if you want to get, they talked about the rough and ready, right, with their tattoos. That the closer you, like, the more you know them, the more you're going to be able to get their tattoos. And I can't imagine CIG not doing something where, like, if you put those tattoos on, it's going to affect the gameplay. So it's like the reputation itself is also tied to your customization. Um, and we talked about this on the captain's table, where when Buster was on, where we talked about the idea of having unique hairstyles situated to specific regions. Like, you want to get this one tight cornrow sort of look, you got to go to this system. You have to have reputation with, like, the right people and the right, like, the right barbers there.
Yeah.
You want to get this, you know, like really, like, straight and like kind of like smoothed out, you know, short bob or something like that. It's a little too simple, but, like, you know, you want to get some, like, elaborate hairstyle or kind of you know, decorations in the hair and everything like that. You have to go to this place because it's like, you know, the dusters are the only people who kind of do those sorts of styles. So yeah, so the customization is already being kind of implemented into uh, the gameplay itself as part of a fundamental like backdrop. So
Mhm.
And to the reputation point, what happens if you build reputation having had a certain look
Mhm.
or having had a certain set of tattoos, and then you change that because you want to change your look up? Does that reputation then diminish because people don't know you the way you look now? Right? So there's lots of interesting ways in which this can go.
Yeah, this starts to tread into that ground of gosh, what do people call it? It's like something mod. It's like when you can put on clothes and it doesn't matter what those clothes are, they just take the attributes of you, so you can wear whatever
Transmog?
you. Yeah, and
Transmog.
that seems like a big deal to a lot of people who play RPGs and MMOs. Do you guys feel like what you look like should define your gameplay, or should you be able to customize and not have to worry so much about that?
I have opinions, but I'm interested in those because my personal opinion is Star Citizen's the mess around find out game. Yes, 100%. The way you look should affect you, should affect the universe you're in. So if you sat there and you ground out Ninetales rep for hours and you got, like, their tattoos and their gang, like their symbols, maybe you got, like, a custom cybernetic arm that's only made by, like, the mechanics at Ninetales, has, like, you know, like a snake or like a fox somewhere on it. Um and it's really good because it's got a really good rep, but then you're like, I need to, like, pivot away from this because I'm not really liking, like, the way this is going. I want to do something else. It's like, you know, you got prison tats and you get out of prison. It's harder to get rid of those things, and it's going to have a reputation attached to it when you're walking around. So you walk around with a Ninetales cybernetic, people will be like, oh, that person worked for the Ninetales. Even if they don't anymore, that reputation hit, it should still there.
Imagine seeing a bunch of pirates with, like, tons of UEE tattoos everywhere. Like, no. Look at us. Look at our tattoos. We're okay.
I think that'd be that would be also something, like, you know, military folks get tattoos of their units and their symbols all the time. That would be
Mhm.
another kind of aspect of, like, because it's like not only just a character customization, but it's also, and like that whole, like, as Captain Superfun was like, oh, part of the campaign of 2974 or whatever. The that will also kind of be like a sort of hybrid of reputation and like customization. I don't know. I like that idea, but
I like it too.
And it's
You
an
guys,
interesting tension. Yeah, it's an interesting tension because on the one hand, we want to have space that reflects the best of diversity in terms of how players can access the game. But on the other hand, we do want some tension in the game from our choices, right? This is a game of consequence, right? Do I want to be permanently marginalized from whole areas of the game because I joined Rough and Ready and got tattoos or whatever? No. But do I want somebody to confront me about that? And for me to be some game loops and game arcs for me to have to journey down in order to, you know, help them come to a new realization or to shift something. Yes, I do want that.
it's a slippery slope, but as with everything in Star Citizen, they say this themselves, and I think a lot of people who are fans of this game believe in the idea that, like, push it. Make us, like Buster said, the game of consequences. Give us consequences. Make us think about what we're doing, but make sure it's still a game. Make sure it's still fun and intuitive, and it's not just going to completely ruin someone's day because they didn't pay attention to this part of the game. I think that's also pretty important.
Yeah, I mean,
That's right.
One of my biggest critiques of Bethesda games is there is no action. Your actions have no consequences. There's no weight to your actions.
Yeah.
So like you can
Right.
be a member of the Thieves Guild and the Mages Guild and the Fighters Guild and the Assassins Guild, and there's no consequences for any of those actions, even though
Unless you're like actively pursuing actions for those guilds. Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, like for instance, if you're an Assassins Guild, you're the leader of the Assassins Guild.
Nobody notices.
Yeah, it's like
That's what
nobody
makes you a good assassin guild leader, Paul.
Well, yes.
Come on.
But if everyone knows you're the Assassin's Guild leader, you know, or you know that sort of thing, like you're killing people, and like there's no, you get caught accidentally doing something, you're not going to lose that reputation. It's not like suddenly everyone's gonna be like, this guy's a murderer. Like that, they don't do that at all, because they're all about trying to make it so that everyone can experience all of the game in one playthrough, which I understand. That's a good mentality, but CIG fundamentally doesn't have that mentality. That's why they built the reputation system, which is not new. It was in Freelancer. Like it's an old Chris Roberts system. So it's just an evolution of that system. And so I do think that like because of that fundamental nature, I do think that there will be consequences to your actions. I don't think it'll be irreversible, but I do think that those consequences, and I think that's important, is having the consequences and having your custom options have that thing. Like talking about transmog, that example of somebody getting like a custom Nine Tails, like cybernetic. I don't think you should transmog stuff like that, because that stuff should be unique.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't just be able to like turn it into a UEE, you know, like thing.
They're very, very, very intense about what's branded as what in this game. So it would make sense for them to not override that.
Well, crafting will help us discover what their intent is there.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Very interesting.
So 50 minutes in, I think we've had a good introduction. Let's talk about the new character customizer and our favorite parts of what we're seeing. Maybe I'd like to start with this. What is the worst part of the existing Star Citizen customizer that you are now seeing updated and you would like to point out as being really, really nice?
I would say the bespoke makeup looks to skin tone, personally. Even though they're good makeup looks, it'd just be nice to it'll be nice to change up, like have something more customized. But two, just like the fact that there's there's variety in what we have, right? They have like a lot of variety in all the heads, but it's only like a dozen heads or something per gender, per presentation. So it's I have a specific recipe, you know what I mean? And I could do that recipe probably like with the absolute accuracy each time. And I would say like the way in which you do it is pretty chill, right? It's not a super hard character customizer to use, but in comparison to what we're seeing coming, I think this one's not as intuitive as maybe the next one will be. So that's kind of my just basically the lack of like big choices.
I think it was pretty confusing to newcomers. Like you said, not super intuitive.
Not super intuitive, but because especially the head blending. I think that I don't think I've ever used a character customizer where I could take two heads and blend them to start with. So that took a second to go, oh, okay, I can blend heads.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get pulling the feature and blending that, but blending a whole head was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Took me a second to grasp that.
How about
and saving your settings? Yeah, Jaybird Max in your YouTube. Yes, the lack of the ability to save settings. Totally true.
That was my statement. Was just the lack of the ability to save, and now with the new one being able to export it, and then also
and maybe save the file from your user folder too, right?
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah.
So it's like the idea of you can create a character as a default base character, like this is the character I want, and then save it, and then come back and modify it later. If you
And then
if you
send
like
it to your whole org so everyone looks the exact same.
Yeah.
Jake, CIG,
My robot.
Jake CIG CIG's community manager told me at one point, or told a bunch of people at one point, that they want to see a literal army of clones to kind of copy the actor who played the clone in
Tamora Morrison
from Clone Wars.
Tamora Morrison, and just to make that, and then have an entire org of called the 501st. It's just the same character.
You know,
Well, we need
that's
the armor
coming.
now.
You know that
They've got to get some armor that looks slightly like Clone Trooper armor. And honestly, what generation Clone Trooper armor was the best? Like, what would you go with if you had to?
Mark II. The Mark II generation, I think, is the best. But that's just me.
We talked about this last night. We were like, how fun would it be to do a Tamora Morrison and then send that to Tamora Morrison as a way to invite and then promote Star Citizen, to do the woman that plays Kamina Drummer in The Expanse, and then to send that to her. Right?
That is incredible marketing, to be honest. If you just got those actors to post their stuff online and be like, wow, look at how good I look in this game, that would be crazy marketing.
We gotta send a bunch of Danny, like everybody has to make a Danny DeVito and send a picture of it to Danny DeVito's Twitter, and so that Danny DeVito's like, what's going on? I watch all these people.
This random game.
Oh look,
these people
tall.
Captain, did you have anything that particularly stood out to you as a big step up with this new creator?
I don't know if it's a big step up. It's the right step up for me.
Yeah.
Right? Which is beards and goatees, man. When I cut off my beard and goatee, my children run. And
they cry.
My wife makes the scrunchy eye face, like no. So, there's always been a bit of sort of moving very quickly past the character customizer, because I just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I remember shouting at CitizenCon, like, beards. And I took that Travis Kelce, Andy Reid meme and put beards. CIG.
Yeah, people were very excited about the beards. I'm very
beards and goatees.
The hair system that they've made, it's one of those nice things about this company. They take a long time to do stuff, right? And people will say that they try to reinvent the wheel at every possible place, and maybe they don't need to. But one of the things I appreciate about them is that they do have the time and perceivably the funding to do things a little bit more in depth than other companies, where other companies might just be like, hey, we don't have the time to come up with new types of hair to do something unique. They can say,
blocks.
Yeah, they can actually go in and create something new in their engine that might not seem necessary to a lot of people, but dang, the hair looks good. And the way that the hair curls, it looks like my hair, and I feel like I have not been able to experience that much in other games. Like I'll try to customize, and they'll have some of the hairstyles that you want, but oftentimes they look kind of plasticky, or they look like they're just a single piece of something rather than a bunch of separate hairs curling in the right way.
It's like an artist drew in like a hat, basically, of hair, or whatever, and then just puts it on. Because I wanted to say, like, on that subject, I think it was at your birthday party, I was talking to Abdi, and I was saying, like, it was that same day, because it was it was second day of CitizenCon. And y'all are having your party. I'm hanging out with Abdi, and I'm talking about, like, what I think it was you too. You're standing right there, maybe too, or was it Honey? But I was talking and saying, what did you think of, like, the hair, and Abdi was like, it needs a lot of work, and I'll tell you why. And Abdi, like, explained to me, like, exactly, like, it's basically the lighter skinned folks' hair, but it's just like worked in those hairstyles. And he was saying, it needs to be a different hair texture. And I was like, of course it does, but I didn't, like, in seeing it on a screen like 70 feet away, I was like, oh, that looks good. And then he really pointed out to me the issues with it, and to see that turnaround since CitizenCon to now, and how much that's improved, like, that made me beyond, that made my heart
And
sing.
the commitment that they made, you know, because Yo-Yo
Yeah.
Mag, Abdi, myself, others, we were like, hey, we'd like to see this thing, and Tyler was immediately like, we're on it, we're aware of it.
Yeah.
And then to see what we see now means that the work was being done, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they were aware and they were doing the work. And I just, you know, we it was important to say thank you, you know,
And for all
doing
we
that.
know,
We're
they
like,
were actually
spring
trying
from
to
some
improve
gratitude.
it. Yeah.
Oh, no,
And
no doubt they were
Right.
working on it before. That tends to be
right. They just have what they
the
had for
situation.
CitizenCon,
Yeah.
maybe, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The funny thing is, the easiest way to show somebody that there is a difference in like the texture of hair is I basically just let a baby touch my head. Like my niece would specifically want to touch my hair because it's different from the rest of her family. It's not just in the
Yeah.
in the way that it looks, but like the coarseness and like the texture and yeah. So I think that kind of attention to detail is something that you don't get to see too often, and I really love that they're going that far with other things too. I mean, Mrs. Tomato, she loves that they're adding freckles. Like that's a big deal. She has
Mhm.
freckles. They are a very defining part of her, and there's something that like that's your skin. You want to be able to at least know that you can replicate that if you want, and the details they're adding there are good. I do expect there to be more though. Like I think that
I expect they'll add, what's that skin thing where you have like different color patches of skin?
Vitiligo.
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 I'm sure they'll add stuff like that, you know.
I have
and
vitiligo, so that's also something that I would be like, okay, I can see that. I have a very light form of it. It's not as obvious as a lot of people, but like these are the kinds of things that people will see and be like, hey, that's
hey,
pretty
there's
neat.
me. There I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about let's talk about body shape. That's one thing that's not coming to this new one. We are seeing great things with the hair, cool skin details, and the face sculpting is cool, but the body is something that they're not allowing us to really customize just yet. But they've also talked about possibly having that be a thing in the future. Do you think that'll actually happen? Or do you all think that will stick with the same shapes because of the animations, the ships, all that kind of stuff has to change?
I think they'll kind of start out subtle. It'll be
Mm.
like shape, like it'll be like some body shaping, like maybe like making your instead of like outright making your character like super tall or super wide or super skinny or whatever. I think I think the first iteration of that personally will be
Presets.
like the rounding out of features, right? Like instead of having like a really toned arm, you might have a less toned arm. Or instead of having such a toned belly, they will round your belly out if you want. I don't think it'll be super extreme in the beginning because they talked about yesterday, like they're saying like, "Oh, if we make your character taller, that naturally makes your arms longer, and then we have to figure out how to redo animations so that like a cup meets your face at the right spot."
Oh boy.
So
It's the
yeah, they got
smallest things.
they said
Yeah.
because there's so many bespoke
Mhm.
animations, right, that are based on like how the skeleton moves. Like it's about the skeleton. I can't remember how he explained it, but he basically said we kind of have bespoke skeletons right now, and we have to do some work to get all that animation work to work for any length of limbs. So
Mhm.
that is a huge undertaking. They said that's a big one for
Yeah.
them. So
And
I
a
think, like I
question,
said, I think it'll be subtle stuff. Subtle stuff in the beginning.
We
and
have
there's
to
a
remember that our rig, that first and third person rig, and that unity of it, other games don't do that, right? So, you sort of absolute in real time. I'm seeing what you're doing, the way you're seeing it from your perspective, and I'm seeing it from third person perspective. Other games fake a lot of that.
Right.
So, for it to be all laid out means that now, if you change too much, um, there's a whole other set of animation. I mean, it seems like a whole lot of work. So I do agree with Buster. I think that what they'll do is they'll take a look at what can happen within the current rig and do
Yeah.
subtle modifications there and just change little pieces of the look. I think that's where it'll start. And if the game lasts long enough, then maybe in year 5 we'll start to get other stuff because of all the work that would be required. But I don't
And all
think that
the all
that'll
the
happen
assets you
in.
have to re
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why
tool.
I'm wondering if it's worth even going back to all that after they've gotten farther and farther along on this, because then they start to look at things like cybernetics and, like you guys all said, things that happen throughout the game. is it worth it to go back to the initial customizer and create the ability to have all these different body types? Because there's also aliens at some point that they want to incorporate.
Right.
Well,
And-
I think
and
Well, I think that's where it gets done.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
that's the thing is
That
that
would
like,
be
when
it.
you have aliens, they're so different in terms of body structure and body shape. Like we know that the Devarin are super thin compared to like your typical human, and like they're super like lanky,
and
and you
Banu
don't
are
have that.
huge.
And Banu are super tall,
And
and
Vandul are super tall.
Yeah.
and the Jean are super short and chunky. Like they're like about a foot shorter typically than humans, and they're much wider with their
Mhm.
like shell-like thing on their back. So it's like, so that's definitely if they want to do, and CIG has said even recently that they still want to do aliens, that like that's going to be something that happens. It's always important to remember with CIG is that CIG fundamentally is the kind of company that will say we can do better, and they'll put the resources in to make it better over time.
Yes.
Much to the
Yes, they
chagrin
will.
of many a Star Citizen player.
Even
They'll
in
be like,
chat at this moment.
No. Oh yeah, no. I'm sure there are people in chat right now, or people watching this after the fact that are like, "Oh, yes, this is." I was really looking forward to this, but it's going to take them 7 years to get this done. I mean, like they just removed the ability to get back your custom stuff from the roadmap. The unique item return, because they're like, well, we need to like make it better for the final release. And a lot of people are just like, I just want my stuff back. I don't care like any kind of consequences. I want my fancy stuff back. So yeah, but I 100% believe CIG is going to do it just because they can. And if you're listening, CIG, booty slider, please.
Especially for
At least for the male
least
model.
for the male.
Gosh. Yeah. What's up
Or
with
slide
that?
it up just by default.
Kind of flat.
Just
It's kind of
make-
flat.
It's
Yeah.
kind of flat. That
It's
thing is
it's
flatter than a
concave.
2x4. It is a Hank Hill butt. It is so
Inverse.
flat. It is inverse on itself. Like
It's so
Yeah.
flat that you could use it as a level surface.
It's like these dudes been spending too much time sitting in their spaceships.
And
They lost.
yeah,
working.
well, here and to those of you out there who have flat butts in reality, no shame at all.
no.
like none. Like we love all the butts. But,
Everybody.
This brings us all the way
if I'm
back
gonna
to
be
the
in
Sir Mix-a-Lot.
If I'm gonna be in Squadron 42.
Right.
Like why? Like what do we say about Squadron 42? Why do you think there's Squadron 42 class? It's because how else are you gonna sit in a pilot seat and survive all that time in a pilot seat without like a very well working gluteus maximus?
You need a bumper.
Just been
Yeah,
crushed.
For all them hits you're
the
about to
bumper
take.
working.
It's
Squadron 42, best
too much
class in Stanton.
Too much 0G doesn't let the butt muscles really form. So it just kind of sits there.
That's another thing to think about in the character creator too, with the body types, right? So I'm glad you said this because it's to segue off of that. Like it makes me think of like the Expanse, right? Like how the Expanse, like people in the belt, like are lankier, taller, skinnier because of the nature of like lower gravity. They're not building muscle mass, so in a way they almost have muscle atrophy in some cases. Like, and I know in Star Citizen we have like, our ships have gravity and all that stuff. But like when you're in a fighter, why would you need gravity in a fighter, right? So like if you're a fighter pilot, are you the kind of person that is like, and you're out all the time, are you going to develop forms of muscle atrophy? And again, I'm not trying to like add something for CIG to do that's super extra, but like it could result in like something the way like your character stats are affected over time. I think would probably be a better way to deal with that than like if unless the character customizer whole thing like can make subtle adjustments over time as your character's in 0G more. But it does make me wonder like if I'm a fighter pilot and I'm like out all the time and then I go to like maybe a planet with heavier gravity ratings, would I just like I mean, overall, even just at a normal like body, I would find myself feeling heavier. It would be harder to get through and walk and do things. But could you imagine if you're out in space like all the time and you go to a planet, how taxing that would be on your body? That's just a,
For those that have been around for a little bit, you know that we used to be able to run ourselves into heart attacks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
stamina kind of went away
And,
for a bit.
Yeah, but I'd
please
like
keep it
to-
away. I don't want to run into heart attacks anymore. I just it annoys me.
on a high
people.
gravity planet, right? That you're not used to. To your point, maybe that future
Yeah.
comes back.
I would
That's like-
accept that. I would
That's something that
accept
they're doing with cargo for sure. I don't know if they'll ever do that with the player bodies, but the idea of where you spend your time, what gravity you're in, what kind of ship you have, all that's definitely being considered. So they could spread that out a bit more to other parts of the game. I could see that. One of the big criticisms of a character customizer in this game, not criticism, I guess, more so it's just something that comes up for a lot of people, is that they don't really care about their player's body or face because they never see it. They're always wearing helmets. They're always wearing a spacesuit. There's no reason to ever take your helmet off. Is that going to always be true?
No.
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 I hope not.
I'm all you need to do is look at like landing zones and notice that when you land at a landing zone and you get out of your ship, you get out of the hangar, you go towards the spaceport. When you're going from the elevators to your hangar to the spaceport itself, you go through these like turnstile like things, and then you go through this giant sort of semicircular like light area. When you run through, you hear like a wow as you go through it. That's a security depot or a security checkpoint.
Mhm.
And they won't let you get in and go into systems. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, there's just guns. No, they're going to make you take off your armor in some places. So you're
They're
just
like
going straight up.
lockers. Yeah.
That's why they have lockers actually working on the locker system right now. They mentioned it in the last monthly report. They're working on that system right now. And it's just, yeah, 100%. You're going to have to. And some mission givers, because they're increasing mission givers as well, some mission givers probably won't even like want to talk with you if you have full kit on, because can you imagine how disconcerting it would be to work with somebody and have them, even if they're like if you're working in a very militaristic
But
capacity,
you look obvious.
when you like say like in the U.S. military or in most militaries, when you're on base, you're not walking in full kit, just like kicking down the door for your commanding
Keeping
officer
your
when they
helmet
call
on.
you. You know, it's
They
like
just came off
it's
the
like,
battlefield.
yeah, like they're just like,
Ready
what the
to
fuck are you
go.
doing? Yeah, like
They said that
are
too.
you high?
In Inside
You
Star
know.
Yeah.
Citizen, back when they first brought in
Yeah.
Reputation, they were like, you might not have the reputation or the look for the person who's assigning you that mission.
Yeah. So like they definitely want to do that, and there will also be things like, for instance, wearing armor is going to tax your resources because it's the
Yep.
resource system which hasn't been implemented yet. So yeah, no, I 100%. This is my soapbox. This is something I've been telling people for years now, which is don't get used to wearing your armor everywhere. You're
Yeah.
going to either have to take it off or want to take it off because it's going to impact your character's ability to do things.
Right.
Because they want it to be a conscious choice that you put on a vac suit and a helmet.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm about to go into combat. I need to depressurize the hull so I don't, when the bullets go through, I don't lose all my oxygen,
Mhm.
and wear a vac suit, or I'm in a dangerous area. I should probably wear a vac suit,
There's
They want to have that
also-
Star Trek experience, where you run around in normal clothing rather than just running around in full armor all the time.
Yeah.
How much of a dork do you have to be to like just always wear your work clothes?
Yeah.
And maybe you want to use your ship's life support system instead of using the oxygen that's in your suit for whatever reason. Obviously, you can always refill it, but like you're saying, there's resources. There's things that you might actually care about that call for you to take that stuff off. And also, a lot of events just call for clothes. Like we might literally have missions that are like, you need to go to this party in clothes undercover and talk to this person. You can't do that in your armor.
Those are always the best missions too. The ones where you gotta look like super hot. Like
Mhm.
I love that. Like there's one in Skyrim. There's one in Mass Effect. Like there's actually two in Mass Effect. Like there's some of the funnest missions are those ones where it's like, hey, don't look like you're gonna kill everybody. Go in, look kind of hot and sexy, and talk the people up, and find the things, and do the things. That's fun. That's fun. That's fun.
I mean, it's a great question because lots of times we spend all of this time in games on our character customizer, and we don't see ourselves close up to see how light diffuses and goes under the skin, and we have to stop and make a decision in camera mode, or we have to stop and make a decision to really look at ourselves, and we go, oh, look at me again, right? But it's not integral to the gameplay. And so I think that's the challenge for CIG, is to to Paul's point and to Buster's point, to make moments and experiences and scenarios where that happens. And not only do I get to see myself and the work that I did on the character customizer in context, but I get to see others and the work that they did. I also think that there's an opportunity, mission givers, certain mission givers for certain cinematics, right? That simply just show off us in our best light at certain points in the mission, right? Or as a culmination or an end to the mission cinematic, right? That allow us to see ourselves in those lights.
Yeah.
And so it's up to CIG to create those opportunities to make it more interesting and valuable, and to make it a value add across the Star Citizen experience, to have done the work of the character customizer, and don't make it as I don't want to come out of the setting as often to take a look at myself and others. I want it to be more integrated into the experience.
Yeah, it's like immersive to deal with that.
Let's talk about short hairstyles real quick. This is a question I forgot to get to earlier when we were talking about hair. The buzz cut. Everybody in the UEE space seems to have receding hairlines. Why is this? What are we missing?
Because the managers of CIG all have receding hairlines, so they
just took pictures.
They see themselves. Yeah, like the models they're using are all them. So all the ones like that looks like me. The old "it looks like me" argument. They're just like they're seeing
helmet coming on and off.
Yeah,
helmet coming on and off.
Yeah, there it is. It's just that friction.
You never know if there's some kind of presets that they use that, like, okay, here's where the hairline starts, like,
I need hairline customization. Yeah, I want to be able to hit a slider and like move it up and down my forehead and be like,
look,
you know what, that
you're
looks
just adding
right.
like 3 more years of development. Okay?
Hairline customization, brow unification, we want it all right there.
I actually do think that's probably a skeletal thing, because like the face has a certain hitbox, and that they want to make sure that the face is like dimensions are the same, so that you're not sitting there with like a gigantic hitbox for people like you have, or have people be like, oh, I'm gonna meta play, I'm just gonna make a tiny face, tiny face and tiny body, like they want to do that so they don't get hit in FPS, and that's just kind of like a more of a meta decision than an actual decision, and I don't think that's a fun or interesting gameplay dynamic. So that may be a consequence of that.
Yeah,
because you can't fundamentally change the size of your face, that like you're not going to be able to take your hairline from like here to like here.
Yeah,
because like that would change the dimensions of your head too much. So
it's like you can kind of tell the transition from their face customizer to the actual like skull rig behind the ears. You can kind of see it. So yeah, that's fair.
They talked about that yesterday in terms of not wanting to go too far and people being able to, because then every FPS player would have the smallest everything, to Paul's point, and it would just become a certain type of meta as opposed to a full expression, right?
How about scanning faces and bodies and importing that to just get the exact character model that you want?
I mean, it would be cool.
Oh, EA Sports did that, didn't they? You were able to do that with your face,
and you look like a monster.
Or like FIFA.
It's awful. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like it's, to me, I think it's like a cool thought and a cool idea, but one, like, what happens to that photo? Like, one, where does the data go? Two, what kind of whacked out shit are people going to take pictures of and trying to make it into a face?
That could get out of hand very quickly.
That could get out of hand. And some people be sending pictures that are illegal in some states in the United States, and at least to send without consent. And the thing is like, the other thing too is, again, that just seems like something that they gotta like think about in a way that, like, look, I try not to like give Chris Roberts new ideas as much as possible, right?
We
As
gave him like
cool as that
6
would
today.
be, but I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like just do it. Just do it yourself. Play with it. Take the time to figure it out. Save the file. Be done with it. If you
Yeah.
get to save the file, what's the point of it?
I mean, I
it's not
suck
gonna
at
look
character
great.
creators, so I kind of get it. Like, I'll try to make somebody who looks like me, and it definitively will not. Like, it's like, do you
Yeah.
know what you look like? So I get some people would maybe just want to like take the easy way out to get somebody who looks like them or somebody they know. But again, it can get a little weird when you can just pick anybody from the world and recreate them in a game. And
Well, there's a complicated legal situation as well, because if you take a picture of Mark Hamill and import that picture into the game and then create Mark Hamill, is CIG liable for stealing the likeness of
Yeah.
Mark Hamill and putting it in a video
that's a
game
good point.
without his consent, or
Or
the image
backers
itself?
themselves.
Oh yeah, but also the image itself, that the picture is also copywritten. So if say you took a picture of Tom Holland, right, and some paparazzi had taken a picture of Tom Holland on the red carpet, that picture is owned by that person who took the picture, not by
Yeah.
Tom Holland.
Mhm.
Which is, and so even though it's Tom Holland's picture, it's owned by the person who took the picture.
Right.
So if you took that picture and uploaded it, it's both a violation of Tom Holland's rights for recreation in a media that they didn't have a say in, and B, it's a violation of the copyright of the person who took the picture in the first place. So like, and this is one of the reasons why we're never going to see like being able to upload images and put as like stickers and put them into your ships and stuff like that, because there's just so many copyright violations that people will run through because people don't really know about these things, and CIG doesn't want to like walk into that legal minefield for a minimum amount of customization.
Also,
Yeah.
That being said, I do imagine third-party websites, once the character customizer is up, where you put an image up and they go, in order to maximize getting this image into the game, move these sliders this degree in this way, right? And it'll approximate that image for you. I would not be shocked if that popped up.
That's what I was going to say, is like, if you really want something to look like you or look like a celebrity, there's going to be somebody, the tools, or somebody who will offer their services to do that.
Yeah, somebody's going to be like the character creator emporium, right? You're just going to be whipping files out to folks.
The Buster Emporium.
Seriously, I mean, I don't know how that works, because, you can't like hide CIG content behind like a subscriber wall, so to speak, right? But honestly, me personally, that is something I want to do on my stream in the future, is like when the character creator's out, I actually want to take like requests, like tell my community, if you feel comfortable and you want me to do it, send me a picture, send me a couple pictures of yourself, like give me straight on, give me each side, give me the back of your head too. And give me like an isometric angle, give me a couple angles, like, whatever, and I'll do my best to make you, if you're comfortable with it, on stream live. And obviously, like, people
I feel comfortable. I'm very comfortable with it on stream live.
But that's the thing, is like, you heard it here first, everybody. Like, when the character creator's out and live, and you don't want to spend like 15 hours making yourself, ask me. And I might
just send a request.
As long as you're okay with your picture being on stream, or at least me having like making your character, because if you don't want people to know what your face looks like, then
I think that's a cool way. That's going to be cool. That just adds on to the beauty of being able to save and import and export characters. I love that. That's great for a game that likes to wipe your progress every year. And for the alpha stage, by the way, for anybody who's watching this, that's not how the game is supposed to work. That's just because of things right now.
It'll be fun.
Let's wrap things up here with a final question that I think we're all going to have a little bit of fun with, and I'm sure the comments are just going to eat up. What is the most controversial, crazy customization you want to see added to the customizer in the future? What's gonna get the comments rolling, folks?
I gotta think about it.
No takers.
I want No, I got you.
I was gonna say, don't be scared. It's okay.
I want a integration of the hygiene and customizer system for bad teeth, bad breath. Right. So I want to be able to have jacked up teeth, gingivitis, and for people to comment on my breath as a result of that. I also want to be able to like pull out eyes and sew up eye holes and see things like that, like to just take pieces out of my face.
Oh, you're like a horror character. No.
Yeah, I kind of want to go horror, right?
Dang. Okay.
So those are my two.
There's some options. I feel like that's like Diablo style customization I'd expect from there. All right. What else we got?
I wouldn't say I'm controversial, but I would like to see glitter.
Oh, nice.
Glitter hair. Like, okay, I'll tell you. Okay.
Glitter never leaves though.
Okay,
like
but
permanent.
here's
not ever.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is in space games it can because it's not real. But no, I'll tell you something, and I'll tell everybody in all your chats this. Okay, here's a piece of advice. If you ever want to have glitter hair, you take your hair and you literally like put so much Vaseline in your hair, and then you either like basically dip your head in a tub of glitter, or you get like somebody like to basically sprinkle it on, because the Vaseline will make it stick. Why do I know this? Because Frankenfurter had to have glitter hair for a production of Rocky Horror in college, and to this day, or he's got a new car now, but I remember like just a few years ago, the guy that played, this was college, this was like over 15 years ago, the guy was going, I still find glitter in that car sometimes. That purple
That's how
glitter.
Mrs. Tomato will put glitter on me for a streamathon or a stream or something, and we will find it for weeks.
For like weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, to just a quick aside to that one, I believe the pearlescent paint on like boats, or there's there's some paint that actively uses glitter as part of its process to make the shine.
The boat paint.
Like the boat paint. So, and I don't think they do much to change it. They just kind of add it to the paint, and that just shows you how versatile and resilient glitter is. Is that it can stick on the side of a boat going at 40 miles an hour through the water and not be ripped off the side of it. So,
well, y'all have seen like the glitter conspiracy, right? It's just wild. Yeah, it's really funny to watch videos on that.
Thing.
Yeah,
that's a whole thing.
All right,
but yeah,
Paul, what's your moonshot edition for this then? Doesn't have to be controversial.
Okay, yeah, because like controversial is like
everybody's got a different idea of controversial.
Yeah, like I could say things, but like most of the stuff that I think is controversial, CIG's already done and will create controversy. And I'm very proud of the community, generally speaking, to not have an existential meltdown like they did with Starfield with the choices of like body types. So, like, thank you. Please don't correct me. Please don't make this not a thing. Now that I've mentioned it, please don't get mad about it in the comments because then it'll make me sad. But I would say one off the wall, pie in the sky. I want, it's similar to the hygiene sort of thing. I want your hair, your beards to grow
and gray out.
Yeah,
and gray.
Especially the longer your character survives, right?
Yeah, and I like for things like your hair color, like the way it is now, it's like perfect. I want that to eventually fade over time, and you have to get it redone so that it'll go back to a natural hairstyle, whatever your roots are over time. I want things like your hygiene to matter, so like your skin will start to like model if you don't take care of it. So that sort of situation. And gosh, I'm trying to think of anything else. I also don't think you should be able to make monsters in Star Citizen, in the sense that like the ye olde Monster Factory joke, like the hero of Kvatch, like the guy who took a dark elf in Oblivion and turned him into a fish, like a fish man. I don't think you should be able to do that in Star Citizens. I think I do think that there should be some limits on customization within somewhat human parameters
Yeah,
for the character
and- yeah.
creator. So
you want
not to make everyone beautiful, but like everyone's going to be at least realistic in some way.
That it
Yeah,
seems
like
like that's
somebody's mouth isn't like under their chin. Yeah.
Yeah.
it seems like that's kind of what they're trying to do with the whole you can sculpt people, but you're held within the bounds of our face models as opposed to just anything, which is cool.
Mhm.
The hair growth stuff is pretty common in like Rockstar games, right? They do that
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty regularly. Yeah. I think
also things like you get fat over time if you're not exercising, or you get toned if you do exercise.
They
that sort
kind of
thing.
talked about that yesterday. They didn't
Yeah.
say necessarily from that, but they talked about like if they did do body types or more body type customization, like maybe if you're a bigger person, you know, your character may not run as fast, but they're solid and they could, you know, they could have like more strength or something. They talked gingerly about maybe body type actually affecting body's performance.
Yeah, cost
So.
and benefits, right?
I
Yeah.
think my addition to this would probably be this is gonna be terrible. This comes from my Far Cry days, but I would love to see us be able to actually get sicknesses, diseases. It doesn't have to be something that like sticks with your character permanently, but it would be cool if it was like a long-term sort of debuff in some area, because that was one of my big introductions to RPG games and like immersive sims. I guess almost immersive sims was Far Cry 2,
Right.
and how you had to deal with that malaria and like figure out how can I play this game in the style I want, but also take care of this thing
That
that I
was
can't
so
get away
cool.
from. And that I wish they had done that with cyberpsychosis and cyberpunk. But I think there's a lot of opportunities to complicate gameplay by giving people those little debuffs without, you know, something you can get rid of, but it makes for a much more unique experience for certain people. And it also builds the risk. Maybe you don't want to go on that derelict ship because it was a Bioticorp ship shipping some weird stuff, and they said that people went in there and died, and like that kind of extra mystery and complication to stuff could be cool.
Yeah, like
They already showed us the blood and tears dynamic, right? So
yeah.
imagine
Yep.
you starting to bleed from the nose and people going, hey, your nose is bleeding, as an indicator
Right.
of some of the stuff that's happening to your body. So
Well, it's like that episode of what is it? There's 2 episodes of Star Trek about the exact same disease. It's the naked time and the naked now in TOS and TNG, where basically each time they go on a ship, somebody takes a glove off to
there
touch
you are.
something, and boom, everybody's suddenly
Keep your
trying to
gloves
get
on.
everybody's trying to get with each other or fight each other all of a sudden. You know, like wouldn't that be like that would be cool? Like you said, the mystery of it, like.
Yeah.
That would be so cool to find a derelict ship, like literally the same thing. Like suddenly your heart rate's going up like 20 minutes later and you don't understand and you gotta get somewhere or find a medical center to get figured out quick, or, you know.
I got these involuntary weapon loading animations, and your teammates are like, what are you doing? You're like, I can't control it. I'm shooting
That one person had to take their helmet off to look cool.
We told
Now
they
here
told
we
us
are.
they never take their helmet off, and we tried to tell them you have to, and then they did, and look what happened. Shame on us.
Yeah,
Shame.
shame on us.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining me for this show. Talk about the customizer, and really, I think just like character. We didn't even focus a ton on the customizer,
Yeah.
more just character customization in general, which I actually think was a good angle to take it. So thank you for the discussion and joining me. If you have any last thoughts on it or anything that you wanted to say before we go?
Ready for it, excited for it.
Ready to
And
go.
if you're not ready for it or excited for it, that's totally okay. Just don't
Yeah.
knock other people for caring about it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
all.
fine to not care about this part of the game.
Yeah.
It's reflective of where the game is going this year, and I'm super excited for everything that we're seeing.
This is version 1. CIG has even said that they've already got the tools done, so just prepare yourself, because CIG's work ethic is very weird, where everyone thinks CIG is lazy, and the answer is no. They do a ton of stuff. It's just most of the stuff we can't see or just doesn't come out there. So, like,
Yeah.
we're already
It's-
seeing a lot of that. That like now that these tools are done, like they're just kind of going bleh, and just kind of just going for everything. And I think that's going to be the character creator is going to be one of those those aspects. Where we're going to start to see like it's like, oh yeah, you know, it's okay, and then like 3.2, 3.1, it's like 10 new heads, 5 new haircuts, you know, 15 new presets, and you're just like, okay, what's going on? And then 2 years from now, it's like so many freaking heads have been imported to the game, and so many different hairstyles that it's you can almost have every hairstyle that is physically possible to mankind, sort of situation, because that's the kind of people CIG are. They just like to have fun, and once they have their tools, they'll go for it. So
Yeah,
be prepared.
that's how they be. All right. Well, thanks again for joining me. I'm going to give y'all one last time to let the folks know where they can find your own content, and we'll go in reverse this time. We'll start with you, Buster. Where can they go to find more of your shenanigans?
Well, it's there in the chat. Mrs. Tomato was so kind to post it, but twitch.tv/BusterTheDestroyer. And on X, or Twitter. I call it Twitter. It's called Twitter. Twitter. I'm on Twitter as BusterTheDestroyer. Which, by the way, I keep losing followers. Why does everybody keep unfollowing me? It's probably bots.
Yeah, on Twitter? Probably.
Yeah, I was almost at 1701 the other day, and then now I've fallen back down like 6 followers. So
I'm pretty sure. I don't think Twitter's user base is shrinking, but it's definitely not growing like it was before. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Anyway, follow me on those Twitch and Twitter.
Nice. Captain, how about yourself?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. It's always a blessing to be with you. Again, Mrs. Tomato's done a great job here. I am on Twitch, where we play the games, sports, sword, and cyber games. I'm on YouTube for long-form videos. Check out my video, Moonshot, where we make it clear that Star Citizen is the first quadruple A game of all time and why. And then I'm also on Twitch. I'll come close to calling it Twix, but I won't call it that other thing. Where we just drop hot space opinions and deal with knuckleheadedness. So that's a lot of fun over there.
Love a hot space opinion. Awesome, thank you. TheAstroPub.
You can find me at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/AstroPub Live. I stream Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Usually, typically I do those every so often. I'll take it the air so off. And if you like lore and lore of Star Citizen and other games, if you like stories in video games and in general, I try to cover the histories and the backstories of again, mostly Star Citizen, but I've done other things like Helldivers and Cyberpunk.
Good Helldivers stuff.
And Starfield. Thank you. And so that's the youtube.com/TheAstroHistorian.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for coming to the show. Anybody who's listening to this or watching this on YouTube, it's ad-free on audio platforms, so if you want to check it out there, I highly advise. And thank you to our supporters for making these shows possible and coming and checking them out live. Appreciate you all. Now, for anybody who is here with me live on the stream, I will actually be stopping this stream now, but I will be going live again in just a couple of minutes. I just got to switch over to my other computer, so stick around. Mrs. Tomato will be dropping the link for the next stream in the chat, so you can fly right on over there. And besides that, hope you enjoy yourselves. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you all on Citizen Central next month. Bye.